When survival becomes your identity and you're scared to evolve. You've been in survival mode for so long, you've mistaken it for who you are. You're not broken, you are conditioned. Conditioned to brace for impact, to expect abandonment, to prepare for the worst, even in the middle of peace. And now life is easing up a little, but instead of relief, you feel guilt. Instead of joy, you feel fear. Instead of gratitude, you feel suspicious. Because when survival becomes your identity, thriving feels dangerous. Let's talk about it. Hey, family. Welcome back to the Get Up, Show Up, Never Give Up podcast, where we talk about real healing, real struggle, and the unapologetic journey to becoming who your growth requires. Today's episode hits deep. We're unpacking something that doesn't get talked about enough. The moment when you finally have space to breathe after years of just trying to stay afloat. And you don't know what to do with that space. You start to self-sabotage, you panic and calm, you confuse chaos with home. This isn't because something is wrong with you. It's because your nervous system and identity have gotten wired for survival. Today, we're going to gently but powerfully disrupt that pattern. So whether you're fresh out of a storm, still fighting to believe it's safe to trust the peace, or scared of who you might become when you're not defined by pain, this episode is for you. Let's begin. When survival becomes a personality, there's a haunting phrase that surfaces for many people after they escape trauma. I don't know who I am without the struggle. Does that sound familiar? If you've said that, thought that, or felt that, you are not alone. For years, your body may have lived in a hyper alert state, always scanning for danger, reacting before reflecting, bracing for loss, over-functioning for safety. This survival response can become so ingrained, it starts to look like personality traits. You say, I'm just intense, when really you're still operating from trauma. You say, I'm just independent, when really you learn not to rely on anyone. You say, I'm just a perfectionist, when really you needed control in chaos. Here's the truth. Survival isn't who you are, it's what you've learned. But anything you learned can be unlearned. Research insight number 1. Dr. Bruce Perry, a leading trauma expert, describes how neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to rewire, means that the longer we stay in survival mode, the more our brain begins to normalize it. Quote, when the brain is repeatedly activated in survival patterns, it shifts development away from higher functioning processes like reflection, planning, and empathy. Dr. Bruce Perry, the boy who was raised as a dog. That means survival mode actually reduces your capacity for long-term thinking, self-compassion, and hope. You're not failing at healing. Your brain is doing what it was trained to do. But it's also trainable to do something new. Why we fear calm. So why does peace feel wrong? Because in trauma or chronic stress, calm feels like vulnerability. Chaos becomes comfortable. Peace feels like a setup. And joy feels like something that can be snatched at any second. Many survivors begin to equate stillness with danger. This is a form of anticipating trauma. The learned belief that safety never lasts, so you stay armored, even when no threat is present. And here's where it gets even deeper. Some people don't just fear calm, they feel undeserving of it. They've wrapped their worth in endurance. They've tied their value to how much they've suffered. So when ease enters the room, they subconsciously reject it. Research insight number 2. According to Dr. Stephen Porges, the founder of polyvagal theory, our nervous system has 3 primary states. 1, sympathetic activation, which is fight, flight. 2, dorsal vagal shutdown, freeze or collapse. 3, ventral vagal safety, connection or peace. When we live in constant stress, our nervous system rarely visits that 3rd state, even when external circumstances improves. This explains why peace doesn't feel peaceful to many people. It feels foreign, unsafe, even disorienting. But peace isn't the enemy. It's the environment your body forgot how to live in. What happens when you stop needing to prove you're strong? One of the most uncomfortable, yet liberating shifts that happen in healing is when you stop chasing survival as a badge of honor. You stop romanticizing your ability to endure everything. You stop needing to be the strongest one in every room. You stop defining your worth by how much you can carry silently. But this shift can feel like loss at first, because when survival is your identity, thriving can feel like betrayal. Peace can feel like laziness. Joy can feel like weakness. Let's dismantle that. The myth of strength equals suffering. Somewhere along the way, many of us were taught, directly or indirectly, that real strength is silent, invisible, and self-sacrificing, especially for those raised in survival households, codependency, or trauma environments. You were praised for your resilience, but punished for your needs. You were admired when you held it all together, but ignored when you cried for help. So you learned that strength equals not complaining, worth equals never being a burden, and love equals proving yourself through pain. But real strength, it's not in how much you hide, it's in how much you heal. And healing doesn't always look loud. Sometimes healing is walking away. Sometimes healing is resting. Sometimes healing is saying, I don't want to live in crisis mode anymore. Identity versus evolution. Let's pause and get real honest here. Ask yourself, if I'm not the strong one, if I'm not the survivor, if I'm not the fixer, then who am I? If that question makes you uncomfortable, that's where the work is. Because what you do is not who you are. What you endured is not your full identity. You are allowed to evolve past survival. You are allowed to become someone who doesn't flinch at calm. Someone who doesn't chase chaos just to feel alive. Someone who doesn't shrink just to feel safe. But the first step is grieving the version of you that only knew how to survive. Research insight number 3, post-traumatic growth and identity expansion. A study published in the Journal of Traumatic Stress found that many trauma survivors experience something called post-traumatic growth, PTG. This includes a new appreciation for life, increased personal strength, deeper relationships, a desire for new possibilities. But here's the key. PTG doesn't erase trauma, it expands identity beyond it. In other words, you can still honor what you've been through without being defined by it forever. You are more than your pain, more than your survival, more than your old roles. It's time to write a new story. How to rewire from survival to safety. This isn't just about mindset. It's about nervous system safety. So let's get practical. Here are 5 real grounded steps to help you shift from survival to peace without guilt or self-sabotage. Step 1, name your new season. What if I'm no longer just surviving? What am I now? Give your new chapter a name, not just metaphorically. Say it out loud. Here are some examples. This is my soft season. This is my era of joyful ease. This is my alignment era. Naming it allows your brain to file this new experience as intentional, not suspicious. It helps your nervous system stop scanning for danger and start trusting what's new. Step 2, interrupt the urge to create chaos. When peace starts to feel boring or unsafe, you might pick fights, overbook your schedule, obsess over control, reconnect with toxic people, chase new problems. This is not failure. It's a nervous system adaptation. But you must pause and ask, what does this part of me think chaos will protect me from? Most often, the answer is vulnerability. Create micro moments of safety instead. Take 3 deep belly breaths. Go outside and touch the earth. Text someone who reminds you of who you are. Step 3, update your inner narrative. If your inner voice still says, you're lazy if you rest, you're weak if you ask for help, you're nothing without pain, it's time for a rewrite. Speak to yourself with truth and tenderness. Try this. I'm not lazy. I am recovering. I'm not broken. I am becoming. I am not falling behind. I am honoring my pace. Step 4, normalize peace in small doses. You don't need to force yourself into huge calm if it feels unsafe. Instead, spend 3 minutes a day doing nothing. Sit in silence without music or distraction. Let yourself receive without over-explaining. Think of it like weight training. You don't bench 200 pounds on day 1. You build capacity slowly and consistently. Your body can learn to trust peace again. Step 5, let go of guilt for evolving. Some people won't recognize the version of you that's no longer stuck in pain. That's okay. You're not responsible for making your growth digestible. You don't owe anyone the exhausted version of you they were comfortable with. Release the guilt. You're not abandoning anyone. You're returning to yourself. The loneliness of leaving survival behind. One of the most unexpected parts of growth is loneliness. And not just any kind of loneliness, a very specific kind. The kind that comes when you no longer relate to who you used to be. But you're not quite sure who you are becoming yet. You're not just grieving people, you're grieving your own patterns, behaviors, defenses. You're letting go of the version of yourself who always overfunctioned, said yes to stay safe, stayed silent to keep peace, stayed busy to feel worthy. And now this is in between. It's quiet, and that quiet can feel like abandonment, even if it's actually freedom. Let me say this clearly. You are not broken for feeling lonely and healing. You are detoxing from emotional overexposure. You are unwinding from survival mode. The healing void phase. There's a stage in trauma healing and nervous system regulation called the void, a space of stillness where old coping mechanisms don't work anymore and new ones haven't fully landed. You may feel numb, directionless, unmotivated, disconnected. This is not regression. This is recalibration. Your body is learning to exist without the constant adrenaline of chaos. Your brain is rewiring from emergency thinking to long-term vision. Let it be quiet. Let it be still. Let it be unfamiliar, because this is the pause before the upgrade. Research insight number 4, identity shifts and liminal space. Psychologists refer to this transitional identity phase as liminal space, a space between what was and what will be. Dr. Tara Brach writes that liminal space often feels like groundlessness, but it's also where the deepest transformation begins. This is where you shed survival-based beliefs like, if I rest, I'm lazy. If I'm not needed, I'm unworthy. If I'm not fixing something, I have no purpose. This is where you learn to belong to yourself, not for what you produce, not for who you help, not for how much you endure, just for being, becoming the version of you who thrives. Now we shift. Let's talk about what it actually looks like to live from a place of safety, not survival. Because I promise you, there is a version of you on the other side of this fear. And they're not just alive, they are thriving. They laugh easier. They sleep deeper. They walk into rooms without shrinking. They trust their boundaries without guilt. They don't chase people who misunderstand them. They don't apologize for evolving. They don't ask, am I too much? They ask, is this space big enough for the fullness of who I am now? Let's talk about how to become them. Identity upgrade framework. Step 1, audit your survival roles. Ask yourself, what roles did I play to survive? The strong one, the peacekeeper, the achiever, the caretaker, the invisible one? Write them down. Then ask, who taught me that this is how I'd stay safe? Because once you name it, you can unlearn it. Step 2, define your thriving identity. This is where you flip the script. What does your thriving self believe? Here are some examples. I don't need to earn rest. I deserve it. I don't chase people. I attract alignment. I don't live in fear. I live in discernment. I don't hustle for love. I embody love. Say them out loud every day until your nervous system believes you. Step 3, set new baselines. You cannot thrive in environments designed to keep you in survival. So get specific. Who drains your energy? What habits keep you in urgency? What spaces reward your self-abandonment? And then ask, what would safety look like here? Then build your life around that answer. Step 4, embody safety daily. Your nervous system speaks through patterns, not logic. So give it consistent signals of safety. Slow mornings, gentle movement, honest conversations, nourishing food, safe touch, emotional release, creative expression. You don't have to wait until life slows down. You can create micro moments of safety right now. Step 5, Choose liberation over loyalty. I'm going to say something bold, and I need you to hear it. Loyalty to the version of you that only knew how to survive will sabotage the version of you who's ready to live. So release the guilt. You are not responsible for making others comfortable with your healing. Your evolution will confuse people who benefited from your self-neglect. Let them be confused. You didn't come this far to keep playing small. Let this land. Just because you got good at surviving doesn't mean you were meant to stay there. You adapted because you had to. You mastered crisis mode because no one taught you rest. You became independent because no one showed up. But now you get to choose again. And this time, you don't have to choose from fear. You get to choose from truth. Let me remind you of a few truths before we close. Truth number 1, you are not lazy, you're exhausted from carrying too much. You didn't fail, you adapted to pain that wasn't your fault. You survived dynamics that required you to shrink, silence yourself, and stay alert. But rest isn't weakness. Joy isn't irresponsible. Peace isn't boring. Healing isn't selfish. You're allowed to want a life that doesn't hurt. Truth number 2, you're allowed to change, even if they say you've changed, even if your growth makes others uncomfortable, even if you outgrow environments, relationships, or identities that once felt safe. You don't owe people a version of you that makes them feel secure. Growth is not betrayal, it's self-respect. Truth number 3, you don't have to earn worth. Your worth is not tied to how hard you hustle, how much you sacrifice, how emotionally available you are, how few needs you express, how many people you save. You were worthy before the pressure. You are still worthy without the pain. Survival trained you to earn love. Healing reminds you that you are love. Truth number 4, you don't have to explain your healing. You don't need to convince people of your new boundaries. You don't need to justify your softness. You don't need to apologize for protecting your peace. You are not too sensitive. You're finally just listening to yourself, and that is powerful. This is your starting point. You are standing at the edge of something new. Not because your old life was worthless, but because it was never the whole picture. You were made for more than just survival, fear-based decisions, people-pleasing, overworking, tolerating chaos, shrinking to be palatable. You were made for wholeness. You were made to walk into rooms without flinching, to take up space without apology, to live slow, love deep, rest hard, and trust yourself again. And no, it won't feel natural at first. But guess what? Freedom rarely feels natural to people who've been caged by survival. You'll want to shrink. You'll want to go back. You will want to sabotage the peace. You'll feel guilt for relaxing, and that's okay. But don't stop. Keep going. Implementation exercise. Your survival to safety statement. Before you finish today's episode, I want you to pause and create your own survival to safety statement. It's a one-sentence declaration that honors where you came from, but anchors where you're going. Here are a few examples. I'm not the strong one anymore. I'm the supported one. I don't perform to be loved. I express to be free. I release urgency. I embrace timing. I don't fix chaos. I protect my peace. I don't prove I'm enough. I remember that I always was. Now it's your turn. Say it out loud. Write it on your mirror. Make it your phone lock screen. Rewire the narrative. Reclaim your energy. Remind yourself daily, I am no longer in survival. If you've listened this far, I want you to breathe. Like, really breathe. You made it through battles no one saw. You became your own rescue. You carried yourself through darkness. You buried the versions of yourself who weren't allowed to rest. And now it's your time. Not to fight harder, not to chase validation, not to keep proving your worth. It's your time to receive, to soften, to remember, to come home to your body, to feel safe in your own mind, to build a life that no longer requires armor. This is not the end of you. This is the becoming of you, the full version, the healed version, the one who knows peace and refuses to trade it again. So I'll leave you with this. Don't let the fear of peace send you back to pain. You deserve what's ahead. And I'm proud of you for choosing the unfamiliar road, the one paved with freedom. If this episode gave you a breath you didn't know you needed, share it with someone who's still stuck in survival mode. Screenshot it, post it to your story, or send it to your group chat. Tag the show Get Up, Show Up, Never Give Up on all social media platforms. I love to know which part hit the most. And don't forget, my merch store is full of reminders just like this. Wear the words, speak the truth, read the books, grab your gear at getupshowupnevergiveup.store.